This is the Check for Traps podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Aaron.
And we have a third person that we've managed to kidnap and imprison.
I'm Alec.
Fantastic.
He's very docile.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because the drugs are still wearing
And today we're going to be talking about...
Birdhouse, bird box,
Birdcage.
birdcage.
Birdwalk.
There you go. Birdwalk.
Jaywalking. The movie.
What?
Is a film we all just watched on Netflix, as did everyone else, in spite of any quality or promise of quality for that matter. What did we all think of Bird Box?
I actively disliked myself afterwards for forcing myself to watch it to make one joke on Twitter about it.
And you watched it twice, so
And I
you're
watched it
doubly
twice.
disgusting.
And I still don't remember half of what happened.
Yeah.
Like, you know the guy that hit the woman who's like a cop? And the addict guy? What happens to them?
Yeah.
I watched it twice.
It says in the dialogue that they've taken the car and disappeared.
Yeah, missed that.
I remember that, and there was no resolution. They just decided that they needed to jettison these characters.
My theory is because they realised when shooting like the Cutler Beckett scene that having so many characters, including a cop there, might really undermine things.
I thought the Pirates of the Caribbean crossover was a strange
It was a
bold
good one.
choice.
I mean, the fact that this film seemingly combined Jurassic Park and Pirates of the Caribbean.
And Moonlight.
And John Malkovich.
And John Malkovich. And being John Malkovich.
The fact that it's all in one canon now is really impressive.
And Get Out.
Oh yeah, of course. He's found a job. He's no longer with the TSA. He's now with the supermarket.
Oh my god, is that him?
That's him.
And he's playing exactly the same character.
Yes.
Excellent.
He's been typecast.
The moment that he was saying, like, you know, I'm going to fill in all of the supposedly, like, mythological justification for this happening. Oh, yeah, I'm writing a novel. I was already, like, punching myself in the nuts.
When a man arrives with, like, a binder and says this binder contains the backstory, I'm like, oh, God.
So, for those of them that haven't seen Bird Box, all the three people at home,
yeah,
Bird Box is a Netflix special
that's right.
with Julia Roberts of Miss Congeniality.
See, I don't actually know anything that Sandra Bullock's been
No,
in.
I don't know. Was she in that film Network where she's like gets hacked and her life gets ruined, or was that Julia Roberts?
Network. You say Network.
No,
and I
Network
just think
is the
of
man
good
with the
movie
gun.
Network.
Yeah, no, it's not called Network.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so Sandra Bullock plays...
She's in loads of terrible movies.
What is Sandra Bullock's character's name?
She's a woman who's having children and one child.
Steals a second.
And she has a sister who dies.
Sarah Paulson from American Horror Story.
And they kind of do a thing where it's like, oh, she doesn't really want to have the kids, which begs the question, why not just destroy them?
Because this is the future and Donald Trump's outlawed abortion.
I'm so out
And
of touch.
the monsters in it are people wearing MAGA hats.
So when a liberal looks at it,
Yeah.
they just want to kill themselves
The
rather than
central
engage in a
yeah.
debate. Okay.
The central conceit of Bird Box is there is an event happening,
Yep.
to quote M. Night Shyamalan, the world's greatest film director.
In the book, it's called The Problem.
There's the
which I think is a real understatement for what's going on in that film.
where
There's a
people...
problem outside. Really, what's the problem? People are killing themselves when they look at the sky. Oh dear, and I've spilt some milk.
I can only assume it came up with the same person who came up with the Troubles for Northern Ireland.
Bit of trouble there. Wave of mass suicide is sweeping the planet, starting in Russia like all bad things.
Yes, correct.
Going through Europe, and then suddenly it's in America. And what happens is you see something, or you hear it, but no one else can see it. Sometimes they can, and then your eyes go funny and you top yourself.
And at the beginning, it's exclusively in the sky. Then later, it's just always outside the house. And then later on, when it needs to be, the Moonlight guy takes off his blindfold because the scary gusts of wind have not yet reached the area he was in. So, no consistency whatsoever.
They start this film very early on referring to the beasties as things. I don't know how they...
There's no evidence that they're things.
It's an entity. It could be like... John Malkovich keeps going, it's bio-warfare.
Yes.
And that makes...
That was good. I enjoyed that. That was like someone actually reacting to something insane by just coming up with some bullshit.
But it's going, oh, there's things outside. Yeah. How do we know there's things? Because people don't say there's a thing. They go, ooh, funny, and then say something vaguely interesting, like mom, or you're not so bad, and then top themselves, which never has any resolution.
Sit in a flaming car.
So we were talking...
That was really good.
Yeah,
that was the only good suicide.
But again, that's so...
In a film of suicides, there was one good one.
In the Alec scale of good to bad suicides, that was right at the top.
I mean, it was pretty hardcore. It was like, it was like the logical conclusion to putting your hand over the candle.
Yeah.
A woman just getting inside a burning car and quietly sitting down and shutting the door.
Yeah. But again, so we were talking about this both in terms of like the variety of suicides and like also the variety of tactics. And someone I was talking to today came up with sort of And it's apparently partially supported in the dialogue, but as we've all agreed, none of us can really remember the dialogue in this film. But apparently Charlie, the supermarket guy, at one point says, he says there are different ones of them. Like, he's got, like, there's loads of different ones. And again, that's supported by Cutler Beckett and Cutler Beckett's drawings of them. There's, like, loads of different ones. So apparently the idea might be, and again, this isn't confirmed anywhere because nothing is, because they didn't think about it, but there might be different ones that have different effects.
Yeah.
So, or they might be adapting. Like, the reason they start whispering later on is because they've evolved. Or not evolved, but, you know, they realise people aren't looking anymore.
The hunt is a bit harder to
exactly.
accomplish.
I thought that bit, he starts listing all the different names. I thought he's just going, they're called this in different languages.
I don't know. It might be, again, but the fact that...
I got like an X-Men Apocalypse vibe from that, where it's just like, some called me this, and some called me this, but I am just a trope.
Like that character from the Mighty Boosh.
Yeah.
Some call me Domino.
So, we have Sandra Bullock. She's raising a child. Well, she's not. She's going to have a child. So from the trailers from this film, I thought it was all going to be her in the boat. Yeah, me too.
Her in the boat is in the present,
yes.
And then we flash back to her, not pre-child.
5 years ago is they are 5. They're 5 years old, and again, like, I think it's such a weird choice to shoot it like houseboat, and that's not her on a houseboat.
There's no houseboat. There's no cool party houseboat.
Unfortunately not.
And then again, one of my main criticisms about this is how comfy the apocalypse is. So if she'd been going down that in a houseboat, that would have been the end. Answer to all her problems. It'd have been a really comfy journey.
The framing device of jumping forwards to her being in the boat massively undercut most of the drama in the film for me.
Yeah, all of it. Because I think a good half the film, maybe a bit less, is in the house.
Yeah.
And as soon as you know how the house ends, which is immediately, because the film introduces it basically after the house.
Yep.
There's just no tension. Like, I just know how it's ending. I know Trevante isn't making out of it. I know John Malkovich isn't making out of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
There is only
such a weird idea.
One of the pregnant person in the house, and you know that they will die, and then she will get the baby.
Yeah, and it's not like you care about them enough to be like, oh shit, man, I can't. I really hope I really don't want these people to die in an unpleasant way. Like, I don't care about them.
I mean,
did you care about any of the when she stumbles into the house full of all the celebrities? Did you care about
the paychecks?
Yeah,
Dr. Wu seemed alright.
I like Dr. Wu.
Greg,
yeah, he because he was a bit proactive. He looks at the camera.
Yeah, he was alright. I quite like John Malkovich, but he was an enormous asshole, and it's never really explained why. And then you remember that he just watched his wife kill herself in front of him, and no one ever cuts him a break.
No,
he's a douche, and they're always like, "You're such a cunt, John." He's like, "Well, she did just because of you." That's fine.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the asshole.
And he never mentions it. He's never like, you did this, Sandra.
But also, he never like uses his, like, when he's arguing against letting Cutler Beckett in, because he's like, there's just too many celebrities in here.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no room for any more.
We're well over budget.
Machine Gun Kelly's going to have to leave if Cutler Beckett comes in. And so when he's arguing about that, he never actually uses the argument that letting someone in killed his wife, which is a great argument.
I would say
Instead,
that.
he goes to shotgun.
It would have also been, you're completely correct, a better character beat, because he'd be like, you're all treating me like I'm a dick here, but I have let all of you in. We're all here surviving together. My wife is dead. I'm going to say no on this.
Also
one.
in my house.
Yes.
It's not his house.
Is
It's
it
Greg's house.
Is it Dr.
Wu's house?
Is it Dr. Wu's house?
Yeah.
Oh,
John Malkovich's like, God let them in, and he's like, it's my house.
Oh, okay.
It's my house,
I thought because I swear Greg asks John Malkovich to use the camera, so I assumed it was John Malkovich's camera, but I guess it's Greg's camera.
It's Greg's camera to keep an eye on John Malkovich.
I feel like
I would keep an eye on John Malkovich. He seems fucking mad.
I mean, I don't think the film was entirely without merits. There were some cool set pieces.
That's the thing, and again, it was a nice concept.
I think the central conceit is interesting. It's just that they went, what if you can't look at them? And that was it.
Yeah.
They went, oh, shit.
Now
what?
2 hours.
You want to know what? Yeah, I think it was, again, they looked at Don't Breathe and they looked at A Quiet Place and they were like, oh man, sensory deprivation, horror, that's a good idea. Get me the schlockiest book that mimics The Happening and
find me another sense.
Yeah. Then get me what's the next sense? And someone went and put their hands over their eyes and they're like, I've got it.
Exasperated from hours of brainstorming and they suddenly thought, oh my god.
And they'd written the entire film being around you can't smell the monsters or you die.
Oh my god.
It's just
everyone's got nose pegs on.
Yeah.
But they've got
Take that, demons.
But they've got to navigate an arsenic factory.
Oh no! You've got to lick all these walls to get out.
But I think the thing that made me kind of wistful about the film was that it had...
Wistful?
longing. It had enough of an okay idea behind it that it just made me miss simple high concept horror movies where it's just people have to band together and work out how to negotiate with a problem. Like with The Thing, we don't know who is the thing. The Mist, we can't go out in the mist, but we can't stay here. A Quiet Place, we've got to be really quiet. Like it can
in
be
this place.
In this place, yeah, in the whole place. But in this, they so rarely were confronted with real challenges, such as the power and the water was always on.
Yep, always.
Which is ridiculous. The worst thing I guess they had to do is they had to drive a car with like newspapered windows. But just the fact that they made it through that scene without immediately crashing into a car, you know, pulled me straight out of my disbelief.
They have proximity sensors.
Yeah, but
Have you driven a car with those proximity sensors on? They are sensitive. They are sensed like a motherfucker.
But there's a shot where like he's got to get around a truck, and there's like no way that he could have proximity censored his way, like because his plan, like the way he traverses it is by reversing for a bit and then sort of just going around it. It's like, how did he know where it ends?
Because it
didn't make any
stop
sense to
having
me.
pings from the front sensor and have the wing sensors instead. Because they're really.
He must have done that
sensitive.
for a while, and again, it didn't ever. It didn't commit enough to it. I was willing... Like, this was the most interesting thing that happened. I was willing to see more of it. I was willing for them to do it properly, and they just sort of, like, half-assed the way down the street.
See, I kind of felt like the car bit was interesting. I was like, I've had enough of them
No,
sitting
no,
in
I'm...
a small set, pulling a face,
I was so bored
and
of
occasionally beeping.
I was so bored of the house. I wanted to be out of it. I was so happy to leave the house.
Yep. They didn't have any fun at all with the limitations of the concept.
No, like I mean, at one point we said it was almost like they were shooting this 9 to 5 because no one was changing their appearance, no one was acting remotely annoyed. Everything was shot in the middle of the day. I think the other thing people have been picking up online in the constant memeing about this is that Travante keeps his like waves for 5 years.
Yeah,
in the last scene, he's been presumably getting someone to cut his hair in a very precise style
And
for
also
years.
Getting enough protein in his diet to remain absolutely stacked.
Oh yeah, like presumably that supermarket is still where they're getting stuff from 5 years later. And also, I don't know, like I've been in a supermarket where people haven't been looking after it for like a day or two, and it's pretty horrible.
Yep.
Like, there's mold and stuff. That supermarket apparently hasn't been looked at for 2 weeks, and everything's perfect. Like the bread section still looks fine.
Was it 2 weeks?
Yeah, I swear it was.
I had real trouble keeping up with the time jumps.
I mean, it was pretty poorly, but from as far as from what I'd worked out at the time, I'm going to trespass me on this one. I think it was about 2 weeks.
I thought it was a few days. I thought it was a couple of days.
I don't think so.
I thought the suicides
We'll have to get to the fact checker.
swept through them.
This disagreement underlines a problem with the film in that it could all take place within a week or the actual, 10 years that it takes place over.
See, I reckon if they didn't have the kids in it, you'd have no fucking idea how
No,
long
exactly.
it was between house and boat.
If those kids weren't actually aging, yeah.
The only reason for the kids being in it was to signpost a time jump.
Yes. That's right.
They
Actually-
weren't even interesting children.
No, they
Like,
weren't.
no.
They were some of the... I mean,
boy and girl is a fitting name for them. Cause,
Why did she call them boy and girl?
It was supposed to be part of like a theme of her not getting attached to them. So it was.
Well, then why she bothered keeping them around?
Well, exactly. Well, the idea is so she's supposed to like. Yeah, indeed. Well, the idea is so it's signalled in that scene where Travante is telling a story, and she doesn't let him finish because it's got a happy ending.
that's right.
And
He climbed to the top of a tree and saw children playing.
And obviously that's...
stop.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the setup, and the payoff is her then eventually telling the story
Really
to...
badly.
Yeah, exactly. Really badly and under quite a lot of duress to get the girl to believe her. But the boy-girl thing was just an unnecessary staple onto that, as far as I could tell. And obviously it was meant to signal that when they were in a safe place, she would give them names, because then it's over. But it makes no real practical sense.
I understand their desire to try and make it explicit that she didn't want to become attached, or that they were almost like dehumanised by this situation, but that idea should have remained on the drawing board, because someone would have objected to being like, Travantes would have just been like, I'm going to call him Jimmy, and she can be blah blah blah.
Also, it's like, this system's really going to backfire if you come across a single other boy or girl. And as well as that, kept reminding me of...
Egg on her face.
Also
Yeah, but
reminded
no
me...
one else is so rude enough to call a girl just girl. So they'll
True.
know who she means. Like, fucking hell, she's well rude. She's talking to me? No, she's talking to girl. Ah, right, yeah. Who's girl? That's her actual living daughter. but she's refused to give a name for reasons as yet not really known.
Poorly developed at best.
And then the credits rolled.
I thought the stuff about crazy people not being affected by it was really fucking stupid.
So we've talked,
It's like, people that are more prone to suicide, they're invincible to the suicide monsters.
but invincible, but also immediately cowed into servants.
Yeah, it's like, I see you wish to die more than anyone else. You shall help others die.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
this is dumb. This is stupid.
It's like, okay, so someone is criminally insane, and upon seeing this, they become an acolyte. What's
And they also the same thing. They all say they will cleanse the world.
Yeah. But also, like Josh said this quite succinctly the other day. It really divvies up the world into two people. It divvies them up into like the mentally,
the sound and the insane with like clearly no gradations in between.
No. I mean, you're either Cutler Beckett or you're what was he called? Fish Fingers. The guy in the supermarket.
The guy who was bashing.
Oh,
the door
so when they
trying
go to the supermarket to do the generic post-apocalypse supply run.
Yep.
And Charlie, who works there, there's a banging in the freezer. There's a
Yeah.
guy going, "Let me in," and it's Fish Fingers. He was always kind of crazy, and then it turns out that there's a beastie inside the freezer, inexplicably with Fish Fingers.
I need to talk about that scene right now because it was so they set up earlier on where Sandra Bullock had the gun and was pointing it at the door, and John Malkovich was like, "Give me that! You don't know what you're doing." So it'd be like, "Oh, okay, clearly he is gun trained, even though she shows she clearly is as well."
Yeah, she does a cool racking
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
with the
Oh, yeah,
shells
she-
fly out.
Yeah, it's good to have all of the bullets out of the gun, Sandra Bullock.
Well, it's safe then. That's how you make a firearm safe,
All
Josh.
the shells.
You don't need it to be safe. You're surrounded by monsters and
They're,
crazy people.
they're Americans.
Okay,
It's
so
a miracle she wasn't firing it anyway to empty it.
Fish Fingers is trying to bash the door open, and he's got it part open, and they're trying to push it back. There's several of them on the other side of the door. What needs to happen in that situation is John Malkovich needs to strafe round and shoot him with the gun. But instead, what happens is, what's his name from Get Out?
Charlie barges his way, but not only just pushes him in, but pushes him in with him.
Following him in,
Yeah.
so he can then
He follows
commit
through.
suicide.
Well,
a
the
completely unnecessary sacrifice.
The shooting budget for Charlie was up, and they had to. Well, we need to get rid
Oh
of it.
shit, man, we got to cut one of these guys.
Jordan
We've
Peele's
overhired.
outside yelling that he wants him back. We need to do something with him.
Netflix was like, we have just too many people that people will recognise on this.
Why did we bother hiring so many actors?
Yeah, just a really, really half-assed, I think, is the easiest way to describe this. Like you said, it's an interesting concept. The first, maybe 20 minutes are really interesting. There's some, like you said, there's one or two good suicides. I'd say there's maybe two. I quite liked it when she doesn't remove eye contact as she steps in front of the truck. I thought that was hilarious.
yeah.
It made me laugh, but it was fine. But
That's 'cause
after
they're twisted people.
exactly after that, it's just complete boredom.
It almost like it explained what was going on too quickly, which is
But
usually
also not
the
enough.
opposite. Is annoying. In most horror films, we know it's happening because someone realise it. But Charlie just goes, "Their demons are making you kill yourself. You look at them." In about 5 minutes, from his binder full of demons.
That's right, with the script in
Yeah.
But also, he says it and it's not questioned. So in movie logic, that's just the truth. And it's like, well, thank God the supermarket guy has the truth. I guess he got it from YouTube.
He does say as well.
Yeah,
it's
he got it
I'm
from
not
the
studying at college. I just love the internet.
Yeah, I know. It's mad. It's such a weird way to do it. And again, there's no ambiguity. Like, you've mentioned the thing. Like, if there had been sort of the hint that there was someone in the house who wasn't right, there's tension there. Even if you know how it ends, though I'd still prefer in my ideal version of this to not know how it ends. I'd like the river to come actually afterwards, because intersplicing between those two is such a bad way
It
to
undercuts the journey you would otherwise feel like you'd gone on.
because it'd be such a tense journey down that river. It would be relentless. It would be a bit like maybe The Revenant or Wind River if you were watching it consistently and you were watching her struggle through it, and it was longer and she underwent more challenges, because she doesn't really undergo any challenges. The only challenge she has is that it's 48 hours or whatever.
It's
But-
too easy for her to go down that river.
But we-
I mean,
because-
that man does
Yeah, but that's it.
I feel that because there's a bit in the river, it's quite early on, where some bloke's You're out on the river? Come over here, I'll look after you. And you're like, this guy's fucking evil.
But you could have
surprise,
so much
surprise, he's evil.
You could have so much more than that, more of that.
But I feel like that really undercut when Tom Hollander turns up. It's like, he's one of them.
Yeah.
Immediately, you're like, he's one of them. Because he's English.
Exactly.
Well, also, but like Tom Hollander, Cutler Beckett, acts so much differently to Fishfinger and that guy.
Was he the fucker in the thick of it as well?
He was the
the fucker.
The fucker!
That's the one. So he acts so differently from either of the other two. In fact, I would say all three of them act really differently from one another.
Definitely.
Which meant that, again, I was constantly questioning what the hell was but not in a good way. I was like, these rules aren't making sense to me. Like,
and then the ones at the end that are like a
Yeah,
rogue
exactly.
gang of baddies
they're-
with another actor that I recognised in it.
You
the
told
guy
me
from The Dark Knight who
Yeah!
first gets interrogated by Harvey turning into
Yeah,
Two-Face.
that's who he is.
another guy you recognise.
And they turn up, and then there's like your generic Mad Max bandits.
Yes, exactly.
Like, but they don't have blindfolds, so they've seen the beasties.
But they also all look like they've been doing ecstasy
Yeah,
the whole time. Like they've got
they
massive
just-
eye.
They just walked out of a rave and they're like, let's raid this house.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh man, try some of this, mate. Fucking big.
Their war theme is Darude.
Maybe they were like the bikers from Mandy.
Whatever, it was like a multi-purpose tool. Whatever the plot needed the monsters to induce. If it needs a creepy man banging at the door, it's a creepy man banging at the door. If it needs a slightly coherent man in a river, it needs a slightly coherent man in a river. If you need a completely normal acting Cutler Beckett, then that's what you'll get as well.
The length of Cutler Beckett's ruse did not match how long any of the others could hold their shit together.
No, and I don't know, is it supposed to be that they've got different mental illnesses? Or is,
Also, let's talk about how Cutler Beckett's the main part of his 3-point plan to get them to kill themselves is to put some budgies in a freezer.
Yep.
Yeah,
and he does that really quickly.
Yeah, because the birds, the bird box of the title.
The birds of the bird box.
Yeah, it's, when the beasties get near birds, they freak the fuck out.
Yep.
Why just birds? Whatever. Canaries in the coal, my metaphor, fine. But if they're inside the house, and Cutler Beckett's not letting them into the house, it doesn't matter whether or not the birds are in the box or not, because they're outside the bigger box, which is the house, and they're inside the box, inside their smaller box, and now he puts them in another box.
Also, it's not
No,
like...
mail that box to myself.
Then John Malkovich is outside in the car box. They've locked him in the garage because he's like,
Summary.
because he's like, this guy's clearly fucking insane. They're like, no, he's not. He's normal, like everyone else we've met. Apart from that one that tried to kill us.
I would also say, just to assassinate this further, if we grant that he needs to dispatch with the birds, then I wouldn't put them in a freezer. I would literally just reach into the cage and crush them to death.
Yep.
He's not a psychopath.
But the only reason...
But he is. He literally is. He wants to kill babies.
Maybe he wants he wants the babies to kill themselves.
Okay.
There's a point.
No, indeed.
How are the babies going to kill itself?
We've had this
mentioned
conversation
this.
today.
We said, how did the babies have a concept? We get a concept of death, and again, because we talked about in a lot of the copy for this, it says that when people see the monster, they see their worst fears.
Which doesn't make any sense.
People don't act like they see their worst
No.
fears. You don't. That's not what you do when you see your worst fears.
run
You don't,
away.
Yeah, you run away. You go hysterical. You don't like very calmly dispatch yourself in the most efficient manner, or one of the most efficient manners. Like the woman in the hospital who's banging her head in the pink tracksuit, who's banging her head against the glass. Like that's not what someone does when they see their worst fear.
What would you if you had your worst fear? Like you can't be like mediocrity because that doesn't work.
That can't be an abstract.
That's what we're all afraid of, but it's not funny.
Okay.
You're looking at something. What makes you top yourself? Because mine is Jacob Rees-Mogg advancing upon me with a marriage certificate with my name on it. I know.
He'd have the power to do that as well.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, Josh.
I'm gonna fuck a haunted pencil for the rest of my life.
I'm not really able to top that, but maybe if I was checking my bank statements and saw that I'd been donating like the majority of my income to the church for the last 5 years without realising it.
No.
Suicide. Yeah.
I think mine would sort of be like I wake up and there's just like on the TV screen there's Donald Trump shaking hands with Theresa May with like a check like a deed that just says Britain on it. And it's like, oh yeah, like 51st state.
51st state too. Revenge of Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, but exactly. Even if we saw our respective worst fears, we would not.
I think I'd wee myself.
That's the thing. Yeah, you would act insane. Like, and these people don't. And also their eyes glass over. So I was thinking about this. Like, it's not. They don't see their worst fears. Their like personalities are removed, and then
replaced with suicide.
Yeah, and just the body then has an urge to destroy itself.
So because like their eyes go kind of funny. They go
Yeah.
like it's almost like they're what's the colour bit of your eye called? Cornea? Iris?
Iris.
It like floods out and
Yeah.
goes grey.
And it expands to the rest of your eye. And there
They
are
just
two-
get mad cataracts.
And again, so there's we only really see. So you can argue
That's my impression of someone with cataract.
Grandma, come back to bed.
Stop trying to kill yourself.
we want to increase it.
I've lived too long, son.
It increases the decibel of your voice by quite significantly.
I should say, I'd really like to get this in here, if that's alright. I do remember one character who acted that way when they were about to kill themselves in another film, and that was Cutler Beckett in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh yeah,
at World's End.
he walks
He
down
calmly
the.
walks down a exploding ship. Everything he's ever believed in has just been destroyed.
He
you
only
think he
believes
just-
in ships and wood.
Do you think
He believed in the East India Trading Company.
do you reckon he saw the monster at that moment? It wasn't actually like a profound resolution of defeat. He glimpsed the script of Bird Box and he knew that was going to be his life.
No, see, because if he'd stayed where he was on that ship, he would have died earlier. So he was saving himself. Because it's all blowing up behind him.
Ah, true, yeah.
So he's
yeah.
like, I'm not going to die like a bitch.
Sure.
I'm not going to die of
Right,
splinters. I want a cool death scene first.
So back to the eyes glazing over. There is something that really gets me here. So there are two, or like 1.5 instances of people fighting against it, which I think is really interesting. The main one is obviously Travante, who not only fights against it, but manages to execute an action before doing it, which is really confusing.
Yes.
Because of his love.
So Olympia is the other person who fights against
Oh,
it.
the comedy fat person.
But her power of love enables her to hand over or not even hand over a child, have a child taken from her.
Because I guess you don't want to, because they don't usually, I mean the nutters do, but normies don't want to have other people killed.
No.
So I guess she was just like, this will enable me to jump out of the window more efficiently.
But
if I hand over
But
my
no,
baby
because
to Sandra
they
Bullock.
really stress. Sandra Bullock keeps asking to have the baby, and
they framed it as such she was
she's like,
convinced by Sandra Bullock.
yeah,
You're right.
she's like there, like sort of like gently rocking back and forth, almost like as if she wants to go, but she's not quite.
Yeah.
It's a really strange scene, and again, just didn't at that moment. It didn't play with what I'd seen up until then, and Travante's one took that further, and again didn't play with what I'd seen up until then. And I think it's really. Again, not to hate on Eric Hesserer, which is the man who wrote this, who I deem to be a hack. I think he just kind of like fit it in wherever necessary to make to convenience. A fucking like Swiss Army knife of horror villain. It can do whatever's required, or it can be as ineffective as required as well.
This film really took the whole don't see the monster thing far too far.
Yeah.
And then you literally never see it. And the closer you come to Tom Hollander's weird drawings.
Yep.
And they're creepy, but also kind of disappointing.
Yeah, really disappointing. Really
Because he's just
disappointing.
drawn a monster.
I'd
It's
rather
like,
I'd rather have not have seen those. I don't know about you two.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because the reason he gets out his sketchbook because the script demands it and starts just putting them out on the table again because the script demands it, and then he's like, anyway, back to my murdering.
Yeah, exactly. He has no reason to, unless he like just wants to look at them. Maybe
Why
he's
did-
like, is it like a girl we're fighting for? Is he like,
I mean, why did he even have time to draw them in the first place? Should he not just be hunting people down and making them look at the monsters?
Yeah, it was a real like mindfuck. Is like, do they value art? Do they like art of themselves? Do they like their fan art? Do
He's
they
still
like-
got enough in his head to sit down and draw for a
Because they're
while.
Because they don't become singularly driven. Like, they lure you in for some reason.
Well, they become quite. I mean,
Apart from the gang of psychos who
No.
just turn up with a gun and,
and,
they're like, who are
and
you?
Fishfinger immediately goes back to banging on that door. That's all he does. Does he take piss breaks? Does he go eat? Presumably he still needs to, but he's just. Is that his shift? Does he like turn up to knock on the door?
And then he goes home and does some drawings.
Yeah, exactly. Does he praise the squid one? I don't know. Like,
Do the monsters encourage this talent in them? Do you think he was that good with charcoals before he went insane?
yeah, exactly. Like,
That's why everyone goes mad, because they suddenly become a great artist and they realise that great art.
Finally have time to pursue that novel about the greatness of the monster and how suicide is fantastic.
just I mean, so Eric, the guy who wrote the script, wrote Arrival. And which is
hang on.
yeah,
He's got precedent of adapting a.
adapting like an existing science fiction idea.
That is derivative of other things.
Yeah, of other things. In this case, like we've said, that it's quite a few things. One of them's obviously The Happening.
When did the book Birdwatch come out?
So the book Birdwatch came out in 2014. However, the guy concedes it was written before The Happening. Not before, sorry. He says that he says it was written before The Happening.
He concedes that he didn't
Sorry,
steal
no, that's what I mean. Sorry, I worded that wrong. As in,
you are correct. My ideas are just terrible.
Concedes is the concede the wrong. He claims that he came up with the idea first.
Well, I remember when I was like in year 6, I was convinced I'd imagined the Naboo Starfighter before that came on screen. Doesn't mean it's real.
He probably has the same delusions you did.
I grew out of mine, sort of.
So the guy wrote the novel. It came out in 2014. The guy was actually worried that it would be lost amongst a sea of similar novels, as if his was the original. The audacity of the man.
Yeah.
And then it was transferred to notable hack Eric Heisserer, who wrote, or like I said, did Arrival. Also did such stellar classics as The Thing remake, which was awful.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Oh,
it's terrible in every conceivable
I
way.
really hate it.
That's alright.
It's a disservice to The Thing.
The same scene, like the same problem, plays out throughout all of that. So in the Thing original, which is brilliant, and we've read to it earlier, you genuinely aren't sure the first time you watch it who the Thing is in any given scene. Whereas in The Thing, the prequel remake, as long as someone walks out of the room they're all having a conversation in, and then comes back in looking a bit shifty, every single time they were the Thing.
It was so, like, not even by the numbers, but just sort of, like, lazy.
He copied and pasted the same scene into different settings, and then they create a film.
Yeah, and he...
That's how you write films, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It's how you write Google.
It's how you wrote bad films.
Google, what's the scene? Man walks into a room.
But as well as that, like...
Turns into monster.
Sweet.
9
But as well as that, like, you don't, like... That is how you can write a film like that, but you don't need to, especially when you're adapting The Thing. I mean, it's a really fertile ground for your imagination, especially if you claim to be a horror writer.
Everyone already loves it.
He wrote the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, another terrible horror film. Like, he's not capable of original thought, as far as I can tell.
I mean, let's take the ship out into Hot Take Bay.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I think,
pretty rough.
is there less of a space now than there was for middling adequate horror films?
I mean,
whereas now we've got to have either your Hostels, your Insidiouses, basically we're going full schlock,
right,
or your Get Outs, your Hereditaries, where they've all got to be a little bit knowing, a little bit nodding. Where does it leave the mediocre, there's a beastie, here's a decent idea, here's a Dawn of the Dead remake? Would that get done now?
But this isn't this is a decent idea, but done poorly. And there's no in no market should there be a medium for done poorly. Like, considering the amount of like money, the amount of, like I said, the amount of cast, like the amount of money spent on like the cast in this, and again, like the director, like Susan Baer. She's not a dumb woman. Like, she's a really oh god, she's not.
You hear them, Aaron.
Oh, I was going to say the Corbyn crowd. As in, she's not.
It's the alt-right on one side rushing to your defence, and it's the left on the other.
Saying there's something they want you to see.
I really.
Jacob Rees-Mogg.
I've been following Susan Baer for a while now, and what I mean is like
with a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. I send her anthrax every week. No, as in I've been, she's a Danish director. She's really good. She's like one of the exactly. She's one of the Lars von Trier disciples. Exactly. She's one of the Lars von Trier disciples. Like,
but he's a fuck.
No, but what I mean is like she made good films. Like she's made really good films. She doesn't make good Anglosphere like American films. But this is above her, is what I mean. Like, she's come up with better stuff than this, and even like I said, like Eric Heisserer has come up with Arrival, which was a more compelling script than this. Like, given the amount of money that Netflix must have put into this, I just don't think there was any incentive for them to make a decent product. Maybe because of Netflix, maybe because they knew people would watch it anyway. Maybe they had like the meme bots ready to market this film out to Twitter immediately, and they were like, "You do whatever the hell you want. We're gonna meme this to just make something meme worthy, and we'll sell the 45 million supposed viewers times two because they take it by an average, so like 90 million."
And I watched it twice.
Oh god!
So that I count as 4 people by their metrics.
90 million for
what have I done?
People.
Well, I will say that, depressingly enough, I can't remember coming back into work and having so many people seen the same movie as me since like The Last Jedi.
Yeah, it's really...
I think it's just the power of front-loading something on Netflix, just like, open your mouth, we have something for you.
Well, yeah, no, it's the combination, seriously, because if you engage the meme machine and then it's available on a service that most people have, it's spreading.
Because I was considering watching it, then couldn't be asked, and then other people watching it. It's like, I will now watch this, and started clapping like a seal.
Yeah, it's a social virus.
To bring it back to what you were saying, I will try
What was
and
I saying?
Well, you said we were steering the boat into
Hot Take Bay.
Hot Take Bay.
I was manning the rigging for Hot Take Bay, I remember.
So I would hope that the presence of something like this, while in itself something of a failure, will at least in the future inspire more films of its kind, where maybe the screenwriter will try harder, or the director won't be as confused because they're working in a second language. Yeah,
I agree. I think
I
something
do want more of this.
something really got lost along the way. Those actors, that director, maybe that screenwriter. I'm not going to give them the credit. They should have produced a better piece of work. And I agree. There should be a place for something that's not Saw and not, I don't know.
Name smart horror film.
Yeah, name smart. It's
The Shining.
Edit me saying smart horror film here. I was going to say It Follows,
The
but
Babadook.
Babadook. Oh yes, the Babadook.
The Vavavitch.
The Vavitch.
The
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
Vavitch.
Yeah, so there should
The
be
Vitch.
there should be a middle ground, but that middle ground isn't this by any stretch of it. And this didn't deserve to be the most viewed film of 2019 thus far. 2 days in. Probably, yeah. It's just
2 days in, what do you think should be the most viewed film of 2019?
I really hope it's Aquaman. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. What even is coming? I guess it's going to be Star Wars Episode 9, probably.
Yeah.
It's going to be... yeah.
When's the Avengers one?
Oh, yeah,
Like
shit.
July or
That's
something?
this year as well.
I think Avengers is a broader appeal.
Yeah, I will not be... I hope it won't... It will probably be remembered as a meme, which is probably all it deserves to be remembered as like a series of funny memes about Sandra Bullock going through a supermarket with her kids and they're all blindfolded. I
She forgot to name them.
It doesn't deserve anything more than that, in my opinion, which is sad.
It wasn't like a survival text. She's like, girls' names. Oh, girl.
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 I tell you what, when
Boy.
I saw those memes, I wanted to say this earlier. When I saw these memes, it said girl and boy, and I thought it was memes being lazy, but no, it was the script being
No, it
lazy.
Why did Sandra Bullock's makeup not change in 5 years?
Yeah, or like I
that.
said, or Travante's haircut. Like,
Well,
why?
you know, I could see that. He's doing it himself.
No, he can't. That's like.
But-
Have you seen that haircut?
He was highly skilled.
He was highly skilled.
Was he an army guy?
He was a marine.
He was a marine.
Known for their barbershop
That's all they
skills.
learned in the Marines. Even the cooks had to be able to be dead-eye sharpshooters.
Or do a
They've also
5-tier
got to be-
wave.
They've also got to be incredible barbers. Yeah.
Was he actually a Marine in the backstory of this film?
Yes.
Wow, I just did not care.
No, exactly.
He throws it out. He's like, "When I was in desert country with a gun."
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's like, so, you know how you said
the famed Desert Country Wars.
You know, all America's wars are in a desert.
Yeah.
it's to make it timeless, because they know all the wars hereafter will also be in a desert.
No.
That's the biggest, I think, the detriment to society of 9/11 was that every time they need a backstory to a character you may not like, they just go, "I was a Marine in Afghanistan."
Yep.
And it's lazy. And I
It is
thought that's
lazy.
the real legacy of Al Qaeda. It's laziness.
What
and scriptwriters.
lazy backstories
Yeah.
for our action heroes?
Why is this man good with a gun? Marine in Afghanistan. Lazy.
The only wound in Western pop culture is literally just the scab of poor writing.
Well, the
From
thing
the
is,
Eternal War.
I kind of agree, actually, because like at least when they said they were in Vietnam, there was always like a tinge of sadness. Like when the guys in Lethal Weapon are Vietnam vets, there's sort of like something there. But when people say they're in Afghanistan, they don't care.
No.
It's just something you throw out there. Like you said, desert country. Like it's so lazy.
Yeah, they've never become.
There's
I
no-
mean, with Vietnam backstories, they were always like they had been completely brutalized by it, and that was what was interesting about it. Yeah, I mean, their attempts to give these characters backstories were quite frustrating because Machine Gun Kelly was a drug dealer, obviously, but then he had a romance with a cop, and then they just disappeared.
Did you notice as well, like the way I thought this was really weird? You might know, maybe either of you could have noticed it. Did you see the way they were shooting like Machine Gun Kelly's shots, and like the musical cues were really eerie? Like they were trying to set. There were a couple of like aborted storylines in this, and I think one of them was that you shouldn't trust Machine Gun Kelly. I think maybe in like another version they were doing something where he was like suspect, or there was some suspicion in the house because a couple of those shots were left in. and like he like hangs on him a little too long, or like she looks at him a little strangely.
It's because you want to jump those bones.
I mean, maybe she wants to jump on the Machine Gun Kelly, but I
Was
don't
he
know.
Machine Gun Preacher's sidekick?
No, he's a rapper.
Okay.
He was a rapper who instigated beef with Eminem last year.
Last year now. But yeah,
That seems like a silly thing to do.
And
when you're a man whose actual rap name I think is a joke.
It went really badly.
yeah, it ended as well as you'd imagine. Imagine what like Eminem can rhyme with Machine Gun Kelly this far into the game. So the other aborted like thing I noticed is, did you remember? I can't remember, we were talking about this earlier, but in the beginning, obviously, there's a lot of talk about her sister and a horse. That comes up a lot, and that's completely dropped. And on the TV screen, she sees a horse, and there's like a guy in a car, and he's using the horse to guide the car because the horse can see and the horse can avoid the beasts, and so
that could have been good.
And again, I thought like, given her training with horses and guns, I thought that was eventually going to be a thing, but again, just completely dropped. I don't know if it was earlier, or I don't know if they.
Question.
Yep.
So the horse guides the car. How did you guide the horse?
No, the horse is just. I mean, the horse is just guiding you somewhere, presumably. I don't know where the horse is guiding
Go,
you.
Nessie.
But
What if the demons turn the horses into pricks?
that's the thing. I don't think
The horse has been on Zoloft for a long time. Yeah.
the horse is already a prick. It's a mentally ill horse. It's
Turn around horse and eating your budgies. No, because I thought the horse thing was just set.
to make her
Lady
feel
Paulson
whistle.
out of American Horror Story being really into horses. I would just constantly go like, "There's a horse. I love horses. Let's go find a horse."
I mean, I could concede that it was supposed to be like her one character trait that everyone had, but I think it was supposed to be something more, just judging from the scenes I saw.
So what was everyone's character trait? So Sandra Bullock's character trait was woman.
Mother.
And
no,
also,
artist.
She liked being a mother.
Reluctant mother.
paints backgrounds of paintings when she clearly cannot do the actual content.
So John Malkovich's was dick,
Drunk. John Malkovich.
angry. Tom Hollander, mental. Travante,
Good.
good. That's it. It was a shit guy.
Good,
Olympia,
good Marine.
fat idiot.
Yeah, so many fat jokes. Like, I mean, you know, like so many weird jokes at her expense as well.
Yeah,
Like,
just because she's fat and a bit naive.
yeah, because she
Yeah.
likes Disney princesses. What's wrong with that?
That's
There
why
was
she's
so-
a basic bitch. It doesn't mean that her death should be somehow less meaningful.
And she has no pretensions about her character as well. She's the first person to be like, I'm actually very spoiled and I'm very lucky to be here with you guys. It's like, why are you
Yeah.
dicking on
Yeah,
this very
exactly.
self-aware person?
Yeah, she's like, I'm not the smartest. I want children. My husband's in the Air Force. I hope he's okay. It's like, oh, I really like you.
He's not okay.
He's definitely.
He saw a beast while flying a helicopter and he took out 20 people and went down. And they were good people.
They were all good people. They were all actually. They all had one character trait as well, which is good.
Good,
They were
yeah.
Travante's family.
They
They'd all been in desert country as well.
They were Travante's unit.
The family unit was the name of their military
Come on,
unit.
fighting good uns. We've got to get back to America to see Travante.
Set them all standing orders to charities.
Again, I'd watch that story. Do you reckon we're going to get a Bird Box
Maybe.
spin-off with Machine Gun Kelly
Oh.
and Lucy?
I reckon it's going to be like the sequel to Monsters, where everyone's got guns now.
Okay. What, they solved the monster problem with guns?
By blowing it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the end to... You have not seen A Quiet Place, have you?
No.
The end to A Quiet Place is they work out they can shoot them.
Awesome. They find the loudspeaker and a shotgun. They're like, this has been solved.
And they defeat the aliens by doing this.
Yep.
Yeah. So
After John Krasinski died for nothing.
Oh, it's just
Drops some
right.
knowledge.
Here's my beef about Quiet Place. Yeah.
Okay.
John Krasinski wrote the fucking thing. He's in it as a handsome, cool hero that sacrifices himself
He's
with
very
his
sexy.
hot wife. I don't think you should be allowed to do that. I don't think
Do
you
you
get
think
to put
that's
yourself into your own
Too
movie
self-serving.
as the cool, sexy guy.
It's like
it's-
Mr. Burns' movie.
Yeah, it's not. It shouldn't be allowed.
But again, that's another film, another sensory deprivation film where the electricity and the water are always on for some reason. It's like these
At
people.
least in the Quiet Place, they've got their own stuff. That's why it's there.
Yeah, but they have the generator, don't they?
Yeah, because they live on a
Okay.
farm and they set up why it's all there. Whereas in
In
Bird Box, you just go, here's some vague stuff about them living like in
In
a
a-
blind
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Well, thereby them doing that tongue click thing that like people do to try and echolocate a bit.
Yeah, they
and a whistle as well as at one
Yeah.
point utilised.
But then
the whole movie should have been about that stuff.
Yeah, the whole movie should have been in the river, in my opinion. Like, you can have a couple of flashbacks to that house. You maybe cut out, 5 of the 7 celebrities, and you just
I
you
would
better.
demand all my
More
celebrities.
More celebrities.
I want it to be like a
So
correspondent.
half the time and more celebrities.
I want it to be a correspondence dinner. I want it to
There's
be.
people milling in the other background.
Yeah.
You see like LeBron James there walking.
LeBron, Wayne and Dunham.
Hi, Sandra, it's me, LeBron James.
He's carrying Warwick Davis like a baby.
So, I have two things to bring up now. One, can you imagine anyone other than Sandra Bullock being proud of having been in this movie? Because I bet John Malkovich felt dirty.
He needs money.
John Malkovich is in Red 2. I think he's got no leg to stand on that.
Yeah. That's what I mean, but
I'm an actor.
Yeah, but Bruce Willis was in Red 1 and 2 and all sorts of crap in the last, 1,000 years, and he still seems to take himself quite seriously.
But no, I agree. I think much like sort of the Avengers call out, I think the casting agent just said anyone who's free this week, and then like Machine Gun Kelly, Doctor Wu,
Moonlight was like, oh, I'm running out of cash.
Everyone rocks up. Well, Moonlight, I reckon Javante was like, oh man, this is how I build from Moonlight. He's like, I'm not like I go into like sort of more of an action role, more of a horror role, something more mainstream. It didn't work.
He should have kept the grills.
It was the wrong it was the wrong film, but it was a good move from his perspective. I think everyone else was collecting their weekend paycheck.
Yeah, and Charlie must have thought I could be the comic and expedition relief in a niche horror film. So, oh fuck,
he's like,
I've done it again, lads.
He like goes home to his wife. He's like, do you ever feel like you're in a rut?
The whole way through, he thought it was a Jordan Peele film.
Oh, he did.
The whole way through, oh yeah, Jordan Peele's definitely involved. Don't tell him.
It'll break his little heart.
They're all having like a weekend at Bernie's scenario where they're trying to trick him. And Jordan Peele is like in the bathroom or just like outside gardening. It's like, oh, we're just gonna have a sub-director for this scene. It's fine.
Right. Should we try and round this up? Because I think I've got some closing statements. I think the most stunning thing throughout this conversation and every conversation I had about this film is that I and you guys have to constantly reference other films,
especially the Mist, A Quiet Place. All of the
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I have to keep reverting back to that.
I still think it reminded me quite a lot of Dawn of the Dead as well.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of Dawn of the Dead 2004.
It just
looks,
in
like quite a fond way. I was like, man, that had Ving Rhames. I wish this movie had Ving Rhames.
That had Phil Dunphy from Modern Family in it.
That's what you mean. It could just some character clashes would have been nice. Because the only character clashing was John Malkovich.
It's them all clashing with John Malkovich.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the clash of clans.
Like you said, if you had someone like Ving Clash.
Are they sponsoring you?
No.
Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe to Audible next week.
Don't put in your code and check for traps for 10 extra gems or however that game works.
Also sign up with Skillshare. We are not sponsored by anyone.
See, what I thought when they were getting for food was that, how are they going to cook it? But luckily, with Blue Apron, you can have food.
Thank God a blind delivery guy rocked up.
Oh, the ending. Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, let's end
when
on
she
that.
walks into a fucking this mysterious paradise, what will it be? It's a school for the fucking blind. I was furious.
I was so annoyed.
Because they were like, oh, this wonderful paradise, and then it's like him being blind. Like, they wouldn't be. This is bullshit. They're not invulnerable. How does that make them any better than everyone else?
The monster can drive you insane through audible hallucinations. So they would have been susceptible to that. And it would have been even scarier because they wouldn't have their eyes.
I think it only properly gets you.
Yeah, but it still harasses them. But also, it can summon roving gangs of Mad Maxons to come and kill you.
And all they had was a front door. You would have thought maybe a gate or a fortress. No, just a door.
Very few people are completely 100% seeing blind. If it works through cameras, it works through blurry.
Well, indeed.
Because otherwise, people with glasses will just take the glasses off and be like, haha. Your ancient eldritch evil has no effect on me, but I have a slight stigmatism in my left eye.
You said, cataracts again.
Yeah.
Grandma's got a chainsaw and she's furious.
So this was the thing that I came up with today. The problem is when they have a set a limitation like this, they kept cutting to POV shots of her sort of being able to see through the threads, but not really enough. That means that there are an exact number of threads that you could remove from her blindfold. I also love the endless supply of Bruce Springsteen headbands. That would eventually make the presence of the monster make it infect you, but not one scene before.
Ooh, on the impromptu blindfolds, I like Charlie's one with some woodworking goggles wrapped in tinfoil.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is so uncomfortable.
But
Just
again,
close your
like,
eyes.
I clocked that as well, and I think I clocked that because it was one of the sole like character beats that was in a vision. Yeah, exactly. It was nice.
Essentially, what kind of disrepair does your blindfold have to fall into before finally the monster can get through?
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, like what sort of state do your eyes? Yeah. Like, is if your vision's at like 2:2, is he's like does he have to get really close to you and be like, oh?
He comes to put glasses on your head.
They come towards you with one of those optician's boards with with your most horrible favourite in varying fonts.
Do you remember the hook, like where they try to hook off the blindfold?
Yeah,
it's like that, but they're trying to hook on a pair of glasses onto you, like they're just like one of those like the Christmas park amusement.
Trying to hook off the blindfold was so stupid.
Dumb.
When the right at the
end, hook. Why are they carrying a pool?
All these like gang members turn up to make them see the beast. Instead of just tackling them, they could like try and fish them.
Sneaky.
And that's how Cervantes dies. And his final words were "fuck it." And that is exactly how I think the final words for this review of this film should be.
Yep.
He goes "fuck it," takes off his blindfold, looks at the beast, he shoots the thing, then shoots himself.
Shoots himself in the head. Yep. Aaron, where's the gun?
Hi, Aaron here. Back from the dead, just saying thanks for listening once again to the, what we called? Check for Traps podcast.
Hey, we know, you're in this.
Remember to like and review us, subscribe us on the YouTrobs. Where do you host this? YouTube.
Currently.
That's an interesting podcast medium.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a podcast, really. It's actually a video series, but don't tell them.
There's a video series there's a video series with no video.
I mean, we're really a take on the absurd hero, the absurd podcaster.
Yeah, Dardarist podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Forever rolling a podcast up a hill that's actually a video. Thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube.
And make comments.
Yes.
And please try and find this location.
And if we ever
Alec has turned the gun on us.
If we ever actually make this a podcast, don't forget to do whatever you do on podcast hosting sites.
I think you rate and review.
Rate and review.
You put a star in a review, and then you tend to follow or subscribe.
Don't forget to R&R, man.
Tell your friends if they're cool.
Yeah.
Which they're obviously not, because you're listening to this and have no friends.